Close enough to 7 o'clock, I call this meeting of the Board of Aldermen's General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. We'll wait just for a second.
As predicted.
Is it portraying?
It usually does what you've done. Usually we'll dial the last number. Oh, wait. Yeah, look, you have to choose a line.
Oh, so you didn't say that. I'm going in the directions. Make a call, see?
It's still not working.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I assume attendance is taken if everyone stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I see we have some visitors. Any comments from citizens?
Oh, I think we do. Why
I was
don't
gonna
you
say,
go
I
ahead and
think-
stand up and
Introduce
I'll
yourself.
stand here with you, but stand up and tell them why you're here, what your purpose is, please.
Okay, I'm Matt, and I'm
Yeah,
Purvis, and
there you
I'm
go.
going for the citizenship in the community, their badge.
And as a part of that, you have to be here to take notes and participate. Thank you.
I'm Joe Lockwood, and I'm here because I am doing the citizenship in the community, and yes, I'm a citizen.
Thank you.
Well, and if you miss anything, it's going to be on the internet too. So if there's something you have a question about, you'll be able to go on YouTube and pull it back up. Because it'll be riveting, I tell you. There'll be things about this you want to play over and over again. So there's a little bit of sarcasm maybe in that. But. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Any other comments?
I have to actually go over that line.
Speak loudly because of where you're at specifically. You know, the microphone's right over there.
Jessica Orsini, 231 South Hickman Street. Is that loud enough?
That's perfect.
Outstanding. I have a real quick question. Does anybody happen to remember the last time the tree board had a meeting with minutes ever in living history?
We had a meeting just prior to Arbor Day this year.
Excellent. Was anything reported, done, anything?
We planned and hosted Arbor Day. Does that count?
It does, it does. I guess what I'm really going for here is, what is the broader purpose of the tree board in the community? I was always under the understanding that it was, well, part of the deal that we're part of Tree City USA. We're supposed to be fostering that in our community. And I was of the general understanding that the tree board was supposed to be helping plan on, at least municipal property, what to do with trees, how to deal with things such as tree removals, and looking around the broader community and seeing what could be done on that line. And I don't know if that's actually a thing that's happening or not, because I haven't seen a report from a tree board since I was on the board.
Well, I am not on the tree board. I am an advisor to the tree board. And as such, just in that. But once, admittedly, when most of the meetings are in conjunction with grant proposals or something like that, when we're trying to come up with tree planting projects or things along those lines. Yeah, outside of when there's not a project on the horizon, they don't get together. Early years, when the formation of the tree board first took place, Mrs. Reinhardt, I don't know if you remember Mary Alice Reinhardt, but alderman participation, we formulated the tree ordinance that has to do with guidelines on planting trees on public properties. And so, but yeah, you're right, there's not a lot of activity out of the tree board right at the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
I think there's a spot open on the tree board if you're looking for something to do.
I'd be interested.
That's the mayor.
Mayor, did you hear that?
Hello? Mayor?
You kind of breaking up a little bit. We discussed about the tree board and what its purpose is and all that. I didn't hear the last statement though.
The last statement was me sticking my hand up and volunteering.
Jessica would like to be on the tree board.
Well, that's outstanding. I can make that happen probably next week at the full board meeting.
Alrighty, thank you.
Democracy in action.
Perfect, I might pencil you in right here. Thank you. Any other comments from citizens? Hearing none, I close that portion of the meeting. Moving on, public safety, police department, there's an activity report in your packet. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, moving on to letter from the Humane Society.
You have in your packet a letter that we received explaining new policy of the Central Missouri Humane Society that feral cats will be neutered and basically they will cause to recapture or come get the animal for release into the environment where they were back to the area it was found.
And prior to this date?
Yes. Yeah, and from previous to this, a cat that was causing a nuisance and did not have, and was not, and we, first of all, we don't take or find, we don't go hunting for feral cats. We respond to complaints. And that's, as we discussed a little, right about a year ago. So, when a cat has been causing a problem, we had taken it to them and they had, because they were not adoptable, true feral cats will not be tamed. They would euthanize them. So at this point, this is, we need to come up with a local solution to either neuter, they're going to charge us $25 a pet. We can come up with a less expensive option. We can pursue that locally, whether we want to continue with our current policy of euthanizing cats that are a problem, or we can proceed, see what it would cost to neuter and release locally. So at this point, we don't have to have an immediate answer tonight's meeting, but we need you to be aware of that, and we can come up with a policy. We can just wait a week before we do anything, because if we catch one today, we can hold them to make sure they're not. We can feed them and hold them to make sure they're not rabid for a week.
But if they were in,
I didn't know if the chief had anything else he wanted to add. I'm not asking for an immediate answer to this problem.
We spoke with Dr. Farmer, a long time, well-established, most credible veterinarian here in town, cares. When we took the letter to him, he indicated that his office would continue to treat the cats as brought to them, and then that he would make an informed medical decision as to what the disposition of the cat may be. If it wasn't adoptable, he'd know what to do. If it was adoptable, they would treat the cat and get it back up and running. But as it stands right now, I don't see that any of this from the Humane Society causes us one bit of rerouting. We're doing, as I understand it, the crux of that letter is the Humane Society will not take an untreated animal. Okay. And we haven't been taking them. We just take them out to Dr. Farmer. They tend to it, whatever tend to it might mean business as usual, moving on. That's the way I see it. And the way Sandy sees it, which is most important.
Yes, I agree.
So then really, there's no need in changing anything.
That's exactly where I am, but more importantly, I don't want to put words in Sandy's mouth. We talked about it late today. That's just where she's at.
I mean, if it was a feral cat, the Humane Society would have done the same exact end result anyway. I mean, you would end up with the same exact end result.
Yes. Yes. If it's adoptable, then I think they'll tend to it. If it's not, they'll tend to it. Same as they have. We're very fortunate to have Dr. Farmer and that team out there that cares. So, that's just where we are.
Anyone else have any comments on the subject? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other on the police department?
I've got just a little bit of business. With Allison Brooks taking out of the job against my advice, with her taking out of the job, we're planning on selling the 2005 brown car Chevrolet Impala. I just don't need it. Put it in blunt terms. We're going to sell it. It's 2005 Chevrolet Impala. We bought it. City bought it from the Highway Control on 11/17 of 2011. It's got about 112,000 miles on it. I think we ought to sell it in the same fashion that we have the other vehicles. Put a minimum bid on it at $3,000 worth. That's good tires, runs good. Question might be, so I'll answer it before we have the question. Why get rid of that car? Most of you know what we have are Crown Vics. They're easier to work on. That's big talk for me, who's operating a peak to replace a headlight. But overall, that'll leave us with one Chevrolet Impala in the fleet, and it's serviceable and it runs. So I think we're better off selling that car, that brown car. At least ought to have a $3,000 minimum bid on it, and we'll sell it in the same fashion that we have. Period. That's my thinking. I don't know if we need council approval or that or not. I've already got a down payment in my pocket. I don't know. Probably do. I don't know.
I know we had talked about that one before, selling that particular car.
I
And
think-
discussions that we'd had before.
I think at some point, as a council, we have to approve that we accepted X amount of dollars for the brown car.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but to start the process right now, I think we'll make up a
It
little.
wouldn't hurt to have the council's approval to do that, then I can declare it
I agree.
surplus and sell it.
I agree. There you go. There you go. That's my
It would make it more,
It'd
make it much more
Make it a
clear,
little cleaner as we
Yeah.
go through, yeah.
just like Chief said.
Unless you want a motion to even put it up for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, entertain a motion.
So,
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you all very much. Other than that, we're content. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else for the police department? Moving on to fire department, activity report. Numbers are in your packet. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, moving on to the mini pumper fire apparatus proposal.
This is where it gets fun.
Sorry?
This is where it gets fun.
Okay, excellent.
We sent out a request for proposals for a mini pumper as approved in the budget this year. You may have remembered Jeff Reynolds from Banner Equipment came and gave us a presentation about a piece of equipment that was a demonstration model. Don't worry about it. John Wilkes Booth sneaking up on us.
I'm not liking
and he had a demonstration model that sold before we could pull trigger. Yeah, not having to go through the budget process, I think that was actually probably for the best. So we put in the budget about the same, $44,000, which we believe would be able to pay for a fire truck over 5 years. We received 4 bids back, and I think we could do any of them for that budgeted amount. It was a request for proposals, not a strict bid, because there are a variety of different features. In addition to a single price on a single piece of equipment with specifications that ranged from $196,000 to slightly over $200,000. We got 2 companies that had mini pumper trucks that were either already being made, stock models, or were already manufactured, to which we could add features and get essentially the same piece of equipment. We received today 1 draft contract from a Pierce sales company. Dan McDonald was the rep. That starts at $163,000, and we could add pieces as we saw fit. We don't exactly have a final number tonight, so but I thought Denny could give you some more. Dan from what's the name of the sales company? It's the one person part I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, out of Wentzville, sent us specifics and a contract on one. He came up and he spent some time, just like Jeff had done earlier, spent some time going over all the wants and needs from the fire department. And I don't know, I think he sent Denny prices for the additional equipment. One thing that during that discussion we were looking at whether we needed it or not was a deck gun. A deck gun would allow you to set a hose and pump, set a hose on a fire and leave it there to get a steady stream of water at a particular location. And it may or may not be something that would be very valuable to us for our ISO. And I've heard 3 different versions on whether that helps or not. That's about $2,500 additional. And I think that even with all the extra pieces that we want, the stock vehicle that they have would be under budget. And I think the cheapest of the variety. and I'm not ready to ask for your sign off on it tonight, I don't think, unless Denny's
No.
talked to Dan, but we probably want you to next week. There is the chance that in that week he could sell that model. He has two others, and they're both under the price of any of the models we have bid to us. So I'm not ready to get a final decision tonight. I just wanted to give you an update on what our progress is. So we should be able to bring to you a final decision at or below the budget next Monday night. A final recommendation.
And they're all Pierce or just?
No,
Pierce?
no, Pierce is,
The ones he has in stock
right,
are
is the
Pierce fire truck.
one in Schumacher is the name of
Yeah.
his sales company, and they are a rep for Pierce. Jeff McReynolds works for Banner Company, and the model he was bringing to us was an E1. We also had a Danco model and a Rombauer.
Ron
And so the Rombauer was the most expensive, the Danco was the cheapest. The E1 with the specs that, just like Jeff worked up with our staff, came in right at $199,000, which is almost exactly what he said with the model he quoted to us at the beginning of the budget period. So when he went through the rigorous process of going and producing a bid as opposed to just throwing together a budgetary quote, it came up with almost exactly the same answer. And that truck would suit our needs, but it's possible this Pierce, we could get it cheaper and sooner. And something that Denny had not asked for, but would be available, is a foam, a unit that takes the foam chemicals, which we already have some of, and would be able to apply them, which would help in certain circumstances. But we hadn't asked for that, so that would be a bonus.
It has a foam tank already. Their trucks come like that.
Yeah.
And their truck also comes with a cab and a half, we want to call it, not a four-door, but a cab and a half, where the others are just talking about a single cab, same Ford, at 550.
Yeah,
So, I mean, the phone system's about a $12,000 option, or item that they always put on a truck.
yeah, but we'll have a final. I hope to get it. It ended up, we had more options than we thought we would, and Dan McDonald came down on Thursday of last week, so we just haven't had time to review everything possible. So one more week and we'll have a number one recommendation and other options if you like. Okay.
Thank you.
Did you want to leave anything out or say anything?
No, I mean, that's, like I said, the trucks range, the ones he has sitting in stock, which are range from, I think, Michigan, one in Florida, one might be in Ohio or something. Like I said, two of them are 2014 models, and one is a 2015 model. Two were built last year, which we don't really know why he didn't tell us when we were talking about these, that he had demo trucks, because I told him the story on we lost out on the demo truck. He didn't bring it up until after he showed us the bid on a new truck, so.
What's the tank capacity on
300, still with a 1,000-gallon pump though. But I'm not sure about like I said, back to the, I'm not sure we need the deck gun on there. I mean, that's 10, 15 seconds worth of water, really, if you're not hooked up and stuff like that, so. But maybe a monitor. I mean, that's mostly for ISO purposes. I mean, Donnie told me that it's worth quite a bit of points on a insurance rating to have. So, I mean, a monitor like we have on the other truck, we have a monitor sitting there because we've got deck guns on the other two, so we've already got a monitor, so.
And I also heard that the ISO rating is based on how many hoses you can have at 250 gallons per minute. If you can get 4, then you get the ISO rating, whether or not it's a stationary deck gun. That's one of the reps just told me. I don't want to, I'm not going to tell you I know the answer to that because I'm not an ISO expert. Donnie and Denny are experts on that, but so So we want to have a little bit more of this discussion so we can give you a, 98% confidence recommendation. Right now, we can give you about a 63%, so that's.
Well, certainly all of them came under our number.
Yes,
Okay.
that was fantastic. They're all within budget. Each one of them has their own financing available if they would like. Or we could also talk to the local banks, and I'm sure that, this is pretty simple. It's not as complicated as what we're gonna be talking about later, but, it's 5-year, any bank will give you a 5-year lease purchase on it, so. I know Todd might argue with me later, but I think we can handle that one, but, I think the good news is, for what we budgeted, we can get what we want, so.
Great. Any other under fire department?
Good display. Fireworks are great.
I got that letter today, I didn't know, I'll send it to you about
All right.
where they're gonna give us a $1,000 the $1,000 credit for next year from J&M. You all might have thought the display was pretty,
Yeah,
but we had some issues back there,
yeah.
so.
It was very nice.
And I called them up Monday morning just to check and see, and found out some other people had issues also with their fuses.
Yeah.
So they offered to do $1,000 credit for next year, so.
No fireworks for next year?
More, yeah.
Sharp stick.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah, you got this year's display and $1,000 off next year, so it's a good
But
day.
may I say something? From just being on the other side of the counter, I had several people who commented how nice it was, and I sat out at the old radio station. Excellent.
I was at CNR Market parking lot.
Yeah.
It was probably because we went slower because we would light a fuse, and you would head to the next one and have to go back and light that fuse again.
Much trepidation you were.
And then, well, Jim has a 2.5 inch, they would light and stop.
You might be going into too much information now. Anyway, it went off, everybody was happy and healthy.
Exactly.
If you were
Everybody's
back,
happy, we get $1,000 back.
No, we wasn't, not everybody.
trust me, your firefighters were very brave that night.
They were all safe.
Oh, yeah.
They were all safe.
We just make
You
sure
were
it's
doing
up.
this, you were doing each one.
And I was sitting right by the ball field, and yeah, it looked great to me. I could actually see the little orange glow, and I couldn't tell.
Neat seeing the flare, the flare stick.
Yeah, flare stick.
Wow. Well, good job. Emergency management.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Protective inspection, dangerous buildings report.
I went out and reviewed, and then didn't bring it with me. There's a list that dated back to Lynn's desk, and there are still probably about 15, 20 dangerous buildings, including the three or four that everybody knows. Number one being the Narragansett building. I was not able to reach one limited number of phone calls, so I'm not going to. I didn't get Clifford Rosa to set up another visit time. I don't see any progress. I did talk to the Regional Planning Commission office, and there isn't really, the feds don't really have something that says you get to keep the property. It is the city that gets the grant, administers the policy, and determines that. So as long as the city is okay with him maintaining the property after demolition, then we can tell him that if he's willing to cooperate on a community development demolition block grant, that he could maintain the property after the building was completely leveled and removed. As much as, I'm a huge proponent of historic preservation. I was one of the people that promoted historic preservation when Columbia got its ordinance. I'm a big fan, but sometimes you have to
That opportunity, we missed that
Yeah, I
opportunity.
think that window was closed. It shattered and fallen out of the frame, so.
And then had the roof fall on it.
Yes, so, I have no nostalgia left. Maybe I'm sure it was beautiful in its day. But, that and, Bruce Cornett's building and a couple others are at the top of my list, and I'm preparing the letters to go out. There's about, 4 or 5 new buildings to go that are residential type buildings. And I'll get you a list of those to look over next week, next month. So we're moving forward. I am moving forward on those. I'm going to use essentially the same frame. I'll probably take. I'm going to start with the letter essentially as Lynn wrote it. Change the name, add some details that are new, but we're going to start the process again. I don't know, the De La Rosa project goes back to 2002 and has gone through several cycles. One thing that if he wants to, he either has to have a building permit, and even if he wants to maintain that he still is operating on the original building permit, that's only good if not only is he doing work, but he's getting inspections. And if you're doing work on the roof, if he was getting to the roof, or the main structural components of the walls, those have to be inspected. And my understanding is that, from having talked to him, is that he believes that that is simply repair and doesn't require a building permit. Well, I disagree, and that'll be the next. I think that he's willing, at last time I talked to him a couple times, he's still willing to look into the idea of demolition if he can get assistance. That's the report I promised.
All right. Anything else for public safety?
I did, under protective inspection, I counted 37 houses for sale. One of those is under contract. Checked with Darren Adams, and he says there's 41 in the school district. So, of course, some of those are by owners, so they're not going to be in the multi-list. So, somewhere around 37. To put that in perspective, that was 38 last month. It was not uncommon to have 60 to 70 for sale about 2 years ago. So we are pretty low on stock, which is not all bad because we've got 7 single-family houses in construction, 14 permits pulled so far this year for new homes. We had 28 last year. We were at 18 at the end of June last year. We were at 14 at the same time this year, so we're keeping pretty close to the same pace we did last year, which was higher than we'd done in the last 12 or 13, as far as the list that Lynn had in the spreadsheet. So there's good and bad.
Moving on to general government and finance. Economic development, there's a great report, or the minutes, I should say, from the meeting. Any questions or comments? I don't believe there's someone from Craig here.
I thought the event that they put together went nicely. I think searching for someone that, I think trying to get a hotel built is a worthwhile endeavor. And I think they've identified some important needs in the community.
How was it attended? How many people?
They filled the seats that they put in the space, so I'm going to say 25, 30 people.
At
least. Yeah. It was well attended and well, and there were conversations that were going on well after the event was officially over. I think it went as well as you could, we could hope, really. And since you either had to be cool or have the air conditioning, you could either be cool and not hear the speaker, or turn the air conditioning up, and so you could hear the speakers. I think people were very patient. As I gave a little, really brief synopsis about EEZ, and I guess I filled the room with enough hot air to turn the air conditioning back on, and so then we, but it was well attended, and people were interested in the subject.
Moving on to park board. Refinancing the lease, a purchase agreement for the rec center. We have a speaker here today. Todd. Coffee. Okay. Pausing with some coffee in my mind, I'm like, it sounds like coffee. Todd, if you introduce yourself to everyone. It is being recorded, so if you would speak up, just to make sure the microphone's picking you up.
Actually,
Sure.
you can use that microphone. If you switch it to red, they're sliding up. Both. Yeah, that should work if the batteries haven't died in the last 2 weeks.
It's not, I mean, it's on red, but
Yeah.
I can hear myself, so. Okay. Good evening. My name is Todd Goffey, and I'm with Piper Jaffray and Company. We have 2 offices, one in Kansas City, one in St. Louis. It's still interfering.
Do you by chance a cell phone in your pocket?
I do.
I can get that away from the microphone.
Who knew? So, I'm in the Kansas City office of the firm, spent a fair amount of time over with our St. Louis folks as well. But a little bit of background, I'm going to briefly mention some of the current happenings in the municipal bond market and some of the changes that are going on without getting too detailed. But I think to give you the perspective of those changes, I think it's good to maybe go back in time. And actually, our firm's history with the city goes back to the 80s, which predates me. And I've been with Piper Jaffray since 1992, and that was the time that we first became involved with the library project. So we've got a long history with the city and with the library district as well. We've done multiple financings for the city since that time from the library. We did transportation revenue bonds in the late 90s for some road improvements. We were the underwriter for the rec center project that was originally done in 2008. And that also did some, kind of helped the library board out in the last few years with some of their issues as well. But contacted Matt about not quite a year ago. It's kind of around the MML time, September timeframe last year, about the possibility of going back, refinancing the 2008 COPs that were completed for the rec center project.
I think at the time I said, but, so.
Right. And what we do, I mean, we monitor these and look for these opportunities that if interest rates have come down, there was the ability to refund certificates, then we'll present those ideas. The COPs, like all bond issues, have certain call provisions, so we're certainly familiar with those and go through those. And in this instance, the bonds or certificates really aren't callable until March of 2016, but you have the ability to basically do an advance refunding where you set up an escrow account now to provide for the payments on those old certificates and basically start getting the benefit of lower interest rates right away. So that's kind of a little bit of history. And in all those instances on those prior bond issues, what we did as a firm was served as the underwriter, where basically we assisted at the time Lynn to structure the bond issue. A lot of those had bond elections of some sort, either a bond election or sales tax election went along with it. Would work on the best structure, and then ultimately, kind of at the end of the process, when it was time to sell the bonds, and we would do that
and raise the capital to construct the project. So kind of A to Z. Last July 1st, there was a new rule that was imposed by the SEC. A lot of this came from the Dodd-Frank Act, which came about some of the financial difficulties that we went through back in 2008, 2009. And basically what the SEC is wanting to do is separate out the duties, similar to an accounting department where you don't want to have your account clerk collect the cash, record the cash, and then do the journal entry for the cash, and then take the money down to the bank. You got to separate those duties out. So part of what the SEC's attempt at this is to separate out the inherent conflict that as an underwriter, you as a borrower or an issuer, you want to borrow the money at as low rates as possible. But then when you're in the market or you're working with other lenders, they obviously want as high of a rate as what they're able to get. So the underwriter is kind of in the middle, serving two masters in essence. So without getting bogged down in the details of the municipal advisor role, basically what went into effect a year ago was separating out the municipal advisory work from the capital raising activity. And so what I'm here to talk to you about tonight is just the municipal advisor role. We will not be serving as underwriter or placement agent. We won't be involved in that whatsoever. We're here to represent, under the new SEC rule, solely, it's a fiduciary relationship to represent solely the interests of the city. And the way the rules are crafted now is that the municipal advisor, whether it's me or some other municipal advisor, is the only person that's going to be with you at the table that has that legal fiduciary responsibility to serve only your interests. So it's kind of separating out the roles, and so we are interested in filling the municipal advisor role. And then you may be thinking, well, okay, what about the other role now that you're not fulfilling? And really what happens is there's kind of one of two ways to access the capital now. One is to go through a public offering process where you might get a bond rating. You put together some bond disclosure documents that are very similar to what you've done in the past and access the market that way. But the other thing that we've seen develop over the last 5 years is what's called a direct placement, where instead of doing a public offering, you're going directly to financial institutions and asking them to provide you with a term sheet and a summary of terms of levels that they would be interested in entering into the financing. So we believe, based upon the structure of, or the potential structure of the refinancing, it's less than 15 years. I think the final maturity is 2028. So it's about a 12.5-year financing. The dollar amount is very doable. So we think for those reasons, plus that you've got great banks here in Centralia as well as Boone County in the area, we believe that more than likely that you can get very favorable terms by doing a direct placement. One of the meetings, one of the phone calls that I was on, there was an underwriter on that call as well, and they even suggested that, when we started talking about all the details of how do you structure this, there's a possibility of an additional project while going on. They even had made, I think, the comment to Matt that you need to probably hire a financial advisor to kind of help you sort some of this stuff out. So it's not just coming from me, it's coming from the industry, the Government Finance Officers Group, the City Managers Association. The use of a financial advisor is now kind of considered best practice. And I'll stop there and say that there is nothing under this SEC rule that requires you, or nothing under state law that requires you to have a financial advisor. So it's entirely your choice of whether you want to have one or not. So I don't want to I want to make sure I'm not misleading anybody into thinking that the rule requires you to have one. But what the rule does do is requires underwriters to provide you with certain disclosures that, and it'll go something to this effect of, we are serving as your underwriter, we're not serving as your advisor, and we have financial interest other than yours, and that you should consult your own legal and financial advisors as appropriate. So those are required disclosures now that underwriters must provide issuers. So if you're comfortable, or the mayor's comfortable signing that letter, then you can certainly do that. But it is important to provide that disclosure, and a lot of this really stems from trying to provide more transparency in the bond market and really in all the financial markets. And I know from reading GFOA and some of the stuff from MML, over the last couple of years, financial transparency is really, it's a big deal. And so the use of the financial advisor, which is used, that word's used interchangeably with municipal advisor. The SEC used the municipal advisor word, but it's really one and the same. But that's really, I think, at the heart of what the SEC was trying to get at, is to disclose conflicts of interest and to try to separate out the different roles, so you don't have one firm serving all the different roles. So I'm gonna pause there to see if there's any questions at this point, and then we can talk. And I want to make sure we talk more specifics about the 2008 certificates and some of the key factors and decision points that I think will have to be made.
And Todd, just reminding myself, whether or not we hire any financial advisor, if we were going out for a lease purchase, direct placement, I know if we went out to issue bonds, which we're not likely to do based on a number of factors, including having to go out for a vote, which would throw the timeline off completely. But assuming we won, we got the public behind it in that way. But which I think we can. But there's another role for a bond counsel, and that is that's you explain the difference between what their role would be in either direct placement or issuance of bond.
Bond counsel does two primary things, and it's a highly specialized area of the law. Merritt can talk to you about that. And in my time, 20 plus years with the city, the firm of Gilmore and Bell is who you've used as bond counsel. They too have offices in Kansas City and St. Louis. But what bond counsel does is two things. One is they provide a legal opinion, that the interest on the security is exempt from both federal and Missouri income taxes. And so that's very key, because the purchaser of the bond, whether it's a public offering or a direct placement, they're relying on the fact that that interest payment that you're going to make is exempt from federal and Missouri income taxes. So that's key for bond counsel to provide that opinion. The second key piece that bond counsel does is basically they opine that it is issued within accordance within Missouri state statutes. And so that's really the two functions that bond counsel has on these transactions. In a public offering, they would also generally be responsible for putting together the disclosure document for the bond prospectus, as you may have heard it referred to as. That is one of the benefits of the direct placement, is that generally the financial institutions that are interested in purchasing direct placements, they are able to do their own due diligence, and since you're not accessing the public capital markets, then the legal fees are generally less expensive because they're not having to take care of the disclosure document. So, number of benefits for the direct placement. I think that continues to make the most sense. And then one other thing that I would mention with the public offering of the bonds like you've done in the past, you go through all this process, then we get to the very end of the process and say, okay, here's what the interest rates were, and here's the terms and conditions. You get that all at the very end of the process, come to the council meeting, council would act on that. With the direct placement, one of the benefits of that is you're gonna have all that information up front. So before you ever make a decision on what to do, you're gonna know the terms and conditions on the front end, not on the back end. So and that's a benefit, and I think also in a situation where you're refinancing prior issues, where interest rates are moving up and down, the savings are going up and down, I think that's good to be able to know what it is kind of on the front end before you make the decision to move ahead.
This might be a dumb question. The direct placement, is that a competitive process? Would there be local banks competing for that business, so to speak?
Yes, sir. And that's one of the benefits of the transparency is, you would put together what we call a term sheet, kind of a summary of terms, and that would be distributed to as many local banks, regional banks, banks in Missouri, however big a universe you wanted to utilize, and then everybody has an equal opportunity to submit responses.
Is there, if we, going out for a direct placement like that, do we have any legal ability to show some preference for a local institution? Can we do that without, is that something you can do and not get in trouble?
I mean, you reserve, just like with your normal bidding practices, you reserve the right to choose whoever you want.
Within certain limits,
Right.
obviously.
But I think where a financial advisor is going to provide value for this financing is it's going to help get back kind of so where you can we can look at an apples to apples comparison. Sometimes you got to know what questions to ask and what information to ask for, because otherwise, you get back just a hodgepodge of responses, and it's hard to make those comparisons. And the financial advisor is going to help you through that process, and ultimately, analyze that for you and do a financial analysis and present that information.
And in the updated package today, there is a letter from Piper Jaffray as to what they would charge for this.
So basically, with this scope, there's about $1.5 million that's remaining from the 2008 COPs, and with some interest costs, you're looking at probably $1.8 million, $1.9 million of total principal and interest. But we believe, based on the current market, that there's probably close to $200,000 of savings. So if you don't do anything, you're going to pay between now and 2028 about $200,000 more than if you would try to do the refinancing. So obviously that's the key reason why you would want to look at doing this. Once we get down to the $1 million, $1.5 million range in terms of fees, kind of the minimum where we're at is about $10,000. And the way the sample agreement shows, I think based on $1.5 million, with the calculation would come out to $13.5. So somewhere in that range is what you're looking at, and certainly that is a nice sum of money, but you're also looking at that in the context of $1.8 million, $1.9 million of debt service. And then the other, I think, complicating factor here is that you've got the possibility of additional improvements. And so do we try to do one single financing? There are certainly some benefits of a single financing, some economies of scale. The other part of that is that the longer you wait for that, you're taking on interest rate risk. So rates are very low now. They were lower 2 months ago than where they are now. But you can wait, but then if you wait, if rates continue to go up, then your savings are going to continue to go down. So it's kind of a tug and pull, and you don't need to make those decisions now, but that's the type of information that we're going to provide to you. Of here's the different options. That by waiting, you might have some economies of scale, but if interest rates go up by 1/4%, then you might have just lost $30,000-$40,000 on your refunding. But those are kind of all the details that we get into, that we look at in a lot of detail, and then summarize that, and then ultimately, Matt would have the detail, but generally the summary information kind of rises up to where we're not bogging you down in a bunch of schedules and present value calculations and those types of things.
Yeah, one last question. If we went with the placement, direct placement, based on what you're saying, would we have to do would it be the best recommendation to hire a financial advisor, a bond counsel, and a placement agent? Or could we skip one of those steps?
If you have interest from the local banks, then they may be willing to provide information to you without having a separate placement agent.
Okay. But you could review that if
you're in essence serving as your own placement agent.
okay, and then a financial advisor can help us review those different options.
That's right.
Okay.
So in that instance, you would need to retain a financial advisor and bond counsel.
And Mike Kincaid is also here to talk about either this or the RFP. Yeah.
This has been down a little bit. Sorry about that. Did you want to speak?
Repeat what you just said. I missed that, I guess. You have to hire a bond counsel and a financial advisor, or if you're not going to go the bond route, you will serve as an advisor as far as what each of those proposals' benefits and risks are.
Yes, we're here to serve solely as your municipal advisor.
Right.
Under either option, we're here just to serve as, with this new SEC rule, only as the advisor.
Right. So, but in that capacity, you would be able to say, this is the benefit of Bank A, B, C, and D. This is the downfalls of all those, so that they would be able to make an educated decision with just hiring you and not you and other people.
Correct.
But of all of the three, the one that we would take the most risk not hiring would be the bond counsel. I mean, to assure that we don't upset the IRS or the banks don't upset the IRS, or to get the best rate, if it's not certified that it's tax exempt, that's probably the number one way we get. Not that it is important. I think you made a good case for hiring a financial advisor, but the one where we have the most exposure, based on, and my understanding is that it would be the bond counsel is the one that we need on an issue this large.
Well, I guess it comes back to need. I believe you want both an advisor and bond counsel on the transaction. They're just like with talking about the fire leases. There are people out there that have probably got some canned documents that are more than willing to just kind of take the risk and not have a separate legal opinion. But in, you know, with dealing with real estate matters, and you may, I mean, the documents are a little more complex than the equipment lease. So I agree with what you said earlier in the meeting. I mean, the equipment lease is very straightforward, and you live with it for 3 or 5 years, and you know, life goes on. But you know, with this, it's more complex because you got real estate involved, and then you know what we're talking about here is something that you're going to live with through 2028, possibly, or longer if you're looking at adding another 600,000 or additional amount on top of that. So you could, I mean, you could do the whole thing
Right.
without any kind of representation if you wanted to. I mean, I would not advise you to do that, but you could.
Hey David, this is Tim.
Just Tim.
Hey, I didn't catch the gentleman's name that just gave that presentation, but I want to thank him for the information that he provided. He made me a lot more informed, and I would feel much more comfortable going with an advisor on something of that magnitude.
Excellent. Anyone else have questions? Comments?
Oh, just to toss this out here, last week the Fed chair did make clear that Treasury rates are going to go up by the end of the year, so that is something to keep in mind.
Some timing is of importance here.
What's our next step?
Well, I mean, the committee could we could do a bunch of different things. We could do, the committee could give me direction to choose a financial advisor. The committee could give me a recommendation not to, or to seek other offers. I don't feel, this is a refinancing of a project that Todd already worked on. I feel comfortable continuing. I also would be able to get 2 or 3 different financial advisor offers if that's the way you want to go. I feel more comfortable going with a financial advisor. I talked to Lynn about it. He thought that was, you know, he had done that in the past and thought that was the safest and best route. But we are not legally obligated to do so. But I would feel much more comfortable working with a financial advisor. And you know, I think it's easiest working with the one that's already been on this project, and we can move quicker. And I think, you know, the comment from Ms. Orsini, from Mike and Earl have been anxious to beat the clock in terms of interest rates to get the best deal for the citizens. And they've moved forward because this body told them to work on getting the project ready for the pool. And one of the key questions that, you know, I could take a guess, other people could take a guess. I prefer Todd take a guess as to whether it's better to wait a little bit, if it's only a little bit, for the pool project and send out one project, because we know we'll have slightly lower fees for advisor and bond counsel if we do it all in one project, one finance. Because there's going to be a base fee for both of those. But there's a trade-off. You know, do we get it done before? Can we get it done before December? If not, we know that the feds are going to raise their rates, and when the feds raise their rates, it's going to have a ripple effect to some extent through the rest of the bond market, through the rest of the interest rate market. So, for those reasons, what I would like you to do is to authorize me to, or bring back get a contract signed with Todd and bring it back for approval next Monday.
The short answer is to make a decision as to whether or not we're doing it.
Yes, I just don't want to I mean, my mind is made up that I'd rather you give me the opportunity to move forward and look at top. We'd have a financial advisor and we could work on the project as quickly as possible. And then I guess if the decision was whether or not your rate would depend upon whether we decide to do both at once, or if we do one after the other, if we decided to hire you for the second project, correct?
Right.
But that's the way I would recommend proceeding for the, at this, when you're talking about $1.5 to $2.5 million worth of money, I think it's worth spending that money.
Well, I'd entertain a motion, if that's what you guys want to do. To,
I'd make a motion that we direct Matt to enter into an agreement with Piper Jaffray.
So,
okay, have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. So, have it ready for next Monday?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for your presentation.
oh, thank you, sir.
RFP for improvements?
One more thing.
Literally, with you like this, I can't see you over here.
Stature is hard to change. Position in my chair, although it's easy to change.
He's ready to spring.
This is, we had an original RFQ, this is another one that we've kind of redone that hopefully has the other information in it that you need, that would satisfy kind of Matt what you were looking for to be able to go ahead and send out. I mean, so as long as it's got the language in it that you're looking for, we're wanting the approval to say, yep, this one's good enough, and then we're gonna fire these out to pool companies and construction companies to see what they can get back to us, because we need this in order to start getting finalized drawings. They're already working on the drawings, but of course, they're also not anxious about letting anything out the door until they've got something more structured. So that's what this is. So kind of what I'm looking for now is if Matt gets a chance to look at this and you guys decide, yep, this is okay, when we get the okay, we'll mail them.
It's a request for qualifications, therefore there's a lot of opportunity to, it isn't a bid, so you don't have to nail down every detail. The only things that I noticed was state law requires that you make sure that there's OSHA training and that you do some sort of federal verification of the ability to work in the United States. And then I think it's a little bit of different language on the insurance, but other than that, it's pretty short and simple. But again, it's a request for qualifications and not a bid. So I don't have to explain exactly what kind of concrete, etc. Those documents would be prepared in cooperation with the staff. And then we get this way we get a budget figure, so if we wanted to put them together, we could get that more quickly. But if staff has reservations, we can hammer it out in the next week and get it back and get moving. Our staff, the committee has some reservations.
Because you want to improve it tonight, right?
Well, I need you guys to have time to look at it to be comfortable with it. So no, it doesn't have to be tonight.
Okay.
But
Otherwise, we need to
yeah, one way to get it to you so you could look at it and
okay.
And
so at least by Monday.
The only differences from the one that went out in the packet on Friday are more extensive numbers on insurance and the E-Verify language.
Those are the only changes.
The guts are the same as the one that was
The
put
one
out.
that's already in there.
yeah.
And largely, and a lot follows the bullet points from the presentation above. Like, and you know, it still gives us the option between now and when we start figuring out what we're going to buy, just to see what we can afford. So, and it does have sort of designing with the future in mind, that there will be someday in the future a new pool hopefully with a, tapered zero entry, and it may be 30 years, and maybe the pool will, the short, shallow end will be on the north, and the deep end will be on the south. And with, so they have the whole thing, the whole big picture in mind when they design for this.
Right.
So if the city wins the lottery,
Would you all have a chance to look at it before the meeting?
This copy.
Do we want to wait to approve it for Monday or? Try to do it now?
would you feel more comfortable waiting with another meeting?
The two changes were the ones that.
We actually don't have a park board meeting until Tuesday, next Tuesday.
So Monday.
Oh, so you're
So
not.
if you do it Monday,
Okay.
let me know, then we can present it Tuesday of who, because then we'll get the approval on our end of who we can mail them to.
Okay,
And so that would be, timing would be good that way.
absolutely, we'll cover it on the
Okay.
agenda.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Moving on to, or anything more for the park board? Moving on to the cemetery report.
Well, Kyle's here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good evening. As you can see, I've got several agendas in there. We've had several meetings. The most one that's to our attention right now is that we have a young man, Logan Dickerson, who is seeking to earn his Eagle Scout award. And he has brought to the cemetery board the idea of creating a flag burning fire pit, where he would take a flag that has been mutilated, destroyed, become unusable, that you would be able to take the flag there and burn it until it's just ashes.
In an approved and
Yes.
and respectful manner.
Absolutely. And so
Entirely ceremonial.
that's right. That's right. So he has brought us a plan that's 8 foot 7 inches square, and he is proposing to install it in the north entrance of the cemetery, right off the highway, on the west side of the drive, and it would be in proportion to the Blue Star monument that's over on the east side. So to kind of balance out the entrance. So we kind of staked that out and take a look at it, and we decided that maybe it should be a little more rectangular. So we've asked him to revise his plans, and he's come back with a 7 foot wide, 8 foot long plan. Well, I talked to Scott Whalen, who is our grave opener, and I was telling him where this proposed may be, and I said, now, if you was to had to work there, opening up a grave, how much space would you need to maneuver your equipment? He said he would need at least 4 foot in order to be careful not to get into the flag burning pit, or to be able to do his job and do it in a timely manner. So if that is the case, then the last space there where this area is to be is very close. So we're asking to Logan to go back. I'm writing a letter to him to go back and revise his plan again. Right now, our cemetery board is split on the proposed idea. So we're going to ask him to bring us more information and provide us another plan. His first plan was a 3 foot fire burning pit with a 4 foot square ash pits. So then we've asked him, to go back and revise that. So he came back still with a 3 foot fire burning pit with 2 1 foot ash pits. The other thing is we understand that he will not be burning any nylon flags in this pit. because he said it creates too much smoke. So I was kind of under the impression that you really can't buy cotton flags anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. But we are going back to him to ask for more information and to get our board all together. We haven't been able to be together every time that he's been with us. So that's another issue that we're trying to give him a fair chance to provide us with his information. So, and once we come up with a proposal, if we decide to accept it or not to accept it, we will bring it before the board here. So that's kind of where we're standing right now as far as the cemetery board is concerned. Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Tree board report, I'm assuming you're tired. Library board, there was improved minutes in your packet from last. Agenda for the upcoming one, yeah. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, moving on to the June 2015 financial statements.
Still doing very well on sales tax. It almost makes me nervous. Don't know why.
Any questions, comments, other than nervousness? Moving on to accounts payable over $1,250. Any questions? I've got them right here. Sorry. Yeah, it's on 77. Second one. Hearing no questions or comments? Oh, okay.
What is BHMD doing?
That was, we had a outage, we had a problem with the display at the SCADA display at the, one of the substations, so they came in and repaired it.
Oh, so it's just to repair
Yeah,
that.
this is nothing to do with the memorial project.
Any other questions? Moving on to other general government, annual financial audit.
This is to serve as a warning, I don't know, invitation. The Williams Keepers will be here to present the audit, and it's just pretty clean, a couple of recommendations, and it sort of leads into the next item. Before it does lead into the next item, the first thing I want to say is we had a little bit more than a 7% increase in sales tax last year. Yeah, after auditing, I thought we had a really great March. I thought maybe some of that was, but no, it's all. We had a good year. And property taxes are up as well, so like 9%. So it was stuff's going on in town, and it's making an impact on our budget. It's a positive impact. It's not. It shows that work over the years in infrastructure and other stuff is paying off. I'm not claiming it's the new administration. I just want to make that clear. It's a very gradual, result of a number of years of good decisions. And luck, I guess, but mostly good decisions.
And those leading on to conversion of account.
So, if you look at the financial report you got today, and if you were particularly in the utilities, the budget codes start with 4 two-digit numbers. The first 3 of which you need to distinguish the water department from the sewer department. So the water department, all of their budget numbers start 01, 03, 03, 01, 01 is the water department. 03, 01, 02 is the sewer department. Due to the nature of our software, it takes that first number it sees as the major division of funds. So what we're doing basically is we're changing 030101 to 311 and 030102 to 312. What it means though is that to get a budget fund balance each month or to at the end of the year to develop the fund balances and et cetera will be much easier, require many fewer journal entries. There will be some work this year. It will be it will cost about $3,000 depending upon hourly costs, et cetera. But actually somewhere between $3,000 and $4,500, $3,000 and $4,500 depending upon how much time they have spent. I think it will help with getting better numbers, and in the long run, it will save a lot of time. It will reduce our other additional accounting expenses to Williams Keepers, but in terms of how many years it would take to pay that off, it's going to be 4 or 5 years probably. So it's not, the return on investment like that is not immediate. But it is one of the recommendations in the audit, and it has been one of the recommendations in the audit. So that's what we're trying to take care of.
This is a new recommendation either.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things that if you don't do what your auditor tells you after years and years, sometimes it could have some minor effect on future.
Well, that is an accounting. I remember back then, previous, from an accounting standpoint.
Yeah.
I get why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So my goal would be to bring back that contract for approval for it's an agreement, not a contract, an agreement to approve next week.
That would be in agreement with the accountant to change for us, or?
No, I'm sorry, it'd be interrupt.
Agreement with our software people.
Talk data, yeah, it'd be with Data, who is the company that installs and manages Summit. So yeah, the agreement would not be with Williams Keepers.
It's their recommendation and.
Exactly.
They're doing the data conversion.
Exactly. My best efforts to cloud the issue you figured out. Yes, that's exactly right. The auditor has been Williams Keepers has been asking us to do this. Data Tech would make it happen. And they would, the Data Tech would be the one who would be making the agreement.
Anything else on the conversion? The data conversion?
They will actually come here as part of the process. That's what it was.
Recycling update.
We, there was a minor communication error between me and the City of Columbia. That everything isn't as free as I thought it was. I checked with the interns, they heard basically the same thing I heard, but the upper management had set a schedule of costs and commingled to the line officer meant something different. Anyway, so the long and short of it is, the actual cost to recycle 1 through 7 plastics is $30 a ton at Columbia, not free. As long as we keep all the other items separate, glass together, tin cans together, glass together but separate from everything else. Tin cans in one bin, separate from everything else. Aluminum cans in one bin, separate from everything else. Newspaper in one bin, separate from everything else. The same way we collect it right now. All of that would be absolutely free, no charge. Glass right now we pay for to get rid of at Civic, so it'd be slightly better. We took a load of plastics down to Columbia, and at $30 a ton, we were charged $5.04. We would probably incur a bill of somewhere between $20 and $25 a month in Columbia if we took all our 1 through 7s there. They are going to market not just to one vendor, but the market is subject to the cost of virgin plastic. So that would, and we have a long-term agreement with, we have a long-term relationship with Gary Ryan. We don't have any agreement that we cannot stop next month. But so Gary is actually making a product, and we are taking it directly to a place where they make a product as opposed to risk of the market. So, and that's something for you guys to make a decision on whether you want to get the cheapest price now, give Gary Ryan one more year to see if he can make his operation a little bit more, where he can get those costs down, or just continue that relationship. I can live anyway. We can survive a $3,600 cost. It's not going to make a huge dent in the solid waste budget. But that's just the update on where we are. And the other thing is, City of Columbia was very good to work with in terms of logistics, getting in and out. I left a message with Civic. I have not heard back from them. So they are not fighting for our business.
Well, let me get this right now. If we don't sort it, if we do like what was suggested last time, we just have 2 bins.
Yes.
Then we pay $30 a ton for everything?
If we do as we can, the recommendation, just as we brought it back yesterday, it would be $30 a ton for the containers and $25 a ton for all the paper thrown together. That is the actual cost. And I would have to look over, I haven't looked over the numbers and figured out exactly how much that would cost us. I'm not recommending we do that at this time. It'd still be cheaper than taking it to the landfill, but it is not.
Not a lot,
no. I mean, it's still a separate truck.
Right.
But yeah, so that was. I think the person on the line didn't understand their pricing exactly. That's my take on it. You'll have to talk. They were pretty clear that the guy on the line was pretty clear about commingle, meaning what containers and fibers together is commingle. The actual policy is commingled means aluminum cans and steel cans together is commingled.
Okay. But the plastics, we're still gonna pay for even if we keep them all separate?
No, if we kept one separate from 2, separate from 3, separate from 7s, etc., that would be free at Columbia. But we've been commingling our plastics for a long time.
Right.
So if we continue to collect it exactly as we have now.
Then we're gonna pay for the plastics regardless, but the other stuff would be free.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You got it exactly right.
Okay.
So I'm not suggesting we start commingling anything right now.
Well, yeah, the biggest problem I see with trying to separate out plastics is people don't know.
Right.
And we're gonna spend time sorting.
Which is one of the reasons why Columbia, the citizens for having it all put together and having a 1 through 7 collection of plastics, and that's why they do it now. Columbia builds the cost into their rate, and they take all their, like we said, they take all their containers and all their fibers in a separate container, and that's how they do it. But then they build that into their trash collection rate.
Right.
Anything else? So no decision, I'm not looking for a decision tonight, that's just enough.
Any other? Any as may arise?
There is an EEZ board meeting tomorrow night. So that's the first meeting for this year. And you may have gotten to notice that next Monday night when we're in the council meeting, will be the city staff pool party.
Exactly, I did. So every one of us will be having fun.
Yes.
You can jump out, and you can jump.
Exactly.
So
Well,
they really didn't want us there.
I
It was
don't
very
think
subtle.
that's
It
the
was very,
message
very
right there.
subtle.